Alright boys, time for some lazy content today. It's going to be like the first video on my channel. I'm going to be ranking all 10 Saw movies. Seen them all once, seen some of them more than once. And yeah, no script, let's just get straight into this. My least favorite Saw movie is Spiral. I don't understand why people like Spiral, honestly. Like, there's definitely good parts about it. Like, I like parts about this movie. I think the ending with the puppet, how the dude set him up to, he set his father up to die, kind of like with the puppet thing and the guns and the shh and the, you all know what I'm talking about. He got his own comrades to kill him. That shit is sick. And there's no F tier movies, by the way. I forgot this is a tier list. Let me delete that row. This is a D tier Saw movie. But and then they did also focus a lot on the detective side, which is what I like about Saw 1, and I think is one of the best parts of the Saw movies. I think the detective side, you get more screen time than their traps. However, they did it terribly. The detective shit is so lame and poorly done in this movie. Don't care for Chris Rock too much. Besides the ending, I'm really struggling to find what I like about this movie. I mean, I think some of the traps are decent. Like, I think the train trap's pretty decent. The finger trap's pretty decent. So some of the traps are decent, but besides that, I think I actually just dislike or feel like neutral about everything else in this movie. I guess I don't know, least favorite parts of the detective parts of the movie. I think it's extremely poorly done, and then obviously the twist is, it's so easy to see the twist coming. That Shank was the copycat Saw person. That was obvious as fuck. So definitely the worst Saw movie. It feels the least like a Saw movie out of all these movies, in my opinion. Alright, so moving on to my second least favorite Saw movie is going to be Jigsaw. This one's Jigsaw, right? Making sure. This one is Jigsaw. So, Jigsaw's just mid as fuck. It's just the most mid as fuck one. Should I put it in D tier or C tier? I'll put it in C tier. It's just mid as fuck. Like, the traps aren't that good in this one. The detective shit's not as good. It's just got somewhat, like, every aspect of this movie is like some of the worst in the franchise. So it obviously can't rank that highly. So I'll just start talking about things I do like about this movie. Again, not the actual trap they're in, the lasers, that trap sucks, but the actual twist with Logan Nelson or whatever being the copycat or the apprentice, that part was cool. And then obviously when the last two people in the trap are given the shotgun and told they have it backwards or whatever the hell, and the girl kills herself, that part is the best part of the movie. And there are other parts of the movies that are decent. There's more decent parts of the movie than Spiral. Spiral, there's barely any parts of the movie that are like above neutral. So I actually think it's decently better than Spiral, which is why it's in C tier, but it's still, this one's like I have the least to say about this movie. It's just mid as fuck. So moving on. So now this is our first like close ranking, where I could say it's between two, and that'd be Saw 3D and Saw 4. I'm going to put Saw 3D next. So Saw 3D, the reason why I like Saw 3D better than I like Spiral and Jigsaw is because Saw 3D is fucking hilarious. And it also does honestly have more good moments, in my opinion, at least by a little bit compared to Jigsaw. I've grown to love the public execution traps. That's just not a negative, even though it's absurd and it makes no sense how that was set up. Love the public execution trap. And then obviously this does have some of the worst traps, but also has some of the best traps. Like obviously Silent Circle is one of the best traps. I actually really love the reasoning for Bobby being in there. What's his name? Bobby Dagan or something. Like the storyline with the traps and like why the guy's in there and everything, that's like really good actually. I feel like it's mostly the acting that makes this movie bad. And also, I don't know. The whole shit with Jill Tuck and Hoffman's not very good. It's probably like Hoffman's worst movie in my opinion. The pain train's a horrible sequence. Gibson's the worst detective by far. Gibson, honestly, I think Detective Gibson is the worst part of the movie. If Detective Gibson was replaced with a different actor, I actually think this movie would be way better. But yeah, I mean, you gotta talk about the shitty sentry gun trap. And just like Dr. Gordon's performance isn't very good, but at the same time, it's kind of funny, so I kind of like it at the same time. It's just one of those movies where there's actually good aspects of it, but when it's bad, it's so bad that it actually becomes good most of the time. Like, this movie is like unironically funny. So that's why this one goes above Jigsaw. And Saw 4, I'm gonna put Saw 4 in C tier as well. Now, my opinions change a lot about these movies. Like, at one point, Saw 3D was my least favorite. And Saw 4 at one point would maybe even be below Jigsaw and Spiral as well. Or at least Jigsaw. But Saw 4 has grown on me. So even though Saw 4 is definitely the most... out of, like, the actual Saw movies, you know, not counting Jigsaw and Spiral, it's, like, the most forgettable and mid. Like, this is another one where you can just call it mid of, like, all the movies. And there's big gripes people have with Saw 4. People hate the reason why Riggs is being tested. And they kind of hate the ending as well. And they have, like, problems with why didn't Riggs just, you know, go get help. He's not trapped. He can move around freely. And I used to have big gripes with that too. Now the only thing I have big gripes with is the ending. I don't understand why Art Blank was put back into a trap and how they forced him to actually go through with making the game work. Like, the spine cutters are never explained how the spine cutters work. And that part, I just don't even think that's explainable. That part never makes sense to me. And the other thing I don't like is just the ending in general. I mean, I do like the Mark Kaufman reveal, even though I think it's one of the weakest reveals. I still like, it's still a net positive. But, like, everything else about that ending sucks. Like, him coming through the thing with 1 second left, Art being like they just so easily could have prevented the situation that the ending kind of just blows ass. Everyone dies, you know? And the fact they just, like, even though it's cool seeing his head get clapped by ice cubes, just they wasted Eric Matthews in this movie. You know, they wasted his potential. But here's the things that have made me grow on this movie. Besides, I think this movie actually has decent traps. Like, the traps, like, out of all the movies so far, I mean, it has the most consistent traps. It doesn't have as highs as some of the others. But, I mean, it's consistently, like, all the traps are, like, borderline good, in my opinion, in this movie. If I remember correctly. Could be regretting that, could be forgetting. But, again, I'm such a rambler, boys. And this is why a guy like me needs a script, but no script for this fucking video. Again, going back to why I said I grew on this movie. Riggs is the perfect person to let move around freely. You know, John Kramer and Mark Hoffman or whatever, they're good at reading people. And so they knew Riggs based off of the beginning of the movie where he barges in despite the potential consequences and how fucking stupid it was to do. He barges into the door to try and save Carrie, who was obviously dead already. And that tells them, that keys them into the fact that this guy is not under pressure. And when there's his friends' lives on the line, he is not someone to think clearly and think intelligently. He is the perfect person for you to be able to let move around freely. And at the same time, Strom says this at one point in the movie, and I fully buy into this, even though I think a lot of people, even though Strom says this, I think a lot of people don't think of this movie in this way. They said they were recruiting Riggs, and I believe that they actually were recruiting Riggs, and that wasn't bullshit. It feels less bullshit than it does in Spiral with Shank recruiting Chris Rock's character. It just makes more sense that they were trying to recruit Riggs, and that if he actually did end up buying into the ideology of John Kramer and his cult, and actually let the other people save themselves and passed his test, I think Riggs would have literally been recruited in. So that's another reason why the game is set up in the way it is. And why that's like the real reason why he's being tested. It's not because he went through a door too early, or like, it is to let other people save themselves, but it's not simple as that. It's more like, Riggs, you're being tested to see if you can buy into this ideology. That if you can believe that people need to be saved through these traps and shit. And that, like, to show that, you know, you can actually save people and change people through these traps. That was his actual test, to see if he could buy into the ideology. So when you think about it like that, it makes much more sense in this movie. It's much more enjoyable. Enough about Saw 4. Saw 5. Saw 5 is C tier too. Saw 5 is C tier. You know what? I don't like having Saw 4 and Saw 5 on the same fucking tier as these guys. As these two. So they're gonna be tier now. Saw 4 is barely B tier though. So, but then again, Saw 5 is barely better than Saw 4, you know? Saw 5 has really good detective moments between Strom and Detective Hoffman. Saw 5 is one of the strongest for detectives, for the detective side of the movie, and it's one of the weakest for the traps, because the traps suck. Bathroom trap sucks. Neck thing sucks. Like, every trap in this sucks. The only good one is the last one. And the Seth Baxter trap's kind of cool too, even though it was rigged. I do kind of like the people in the traps. I think I like the people in the traps more than most people do. And you have to think about it like this. They're being tested because when other people's lives were on the line, they were able to work together to save their own asses and to cover it up. So now it's like, okay, let's see if y'all are able to work together when it's your own, or when it's each other's lives on the line. Let's see if y'all will betray each other at that point. So that part's pretty interesting, but obviously the ending twist with the people in the trap is kind of stupid. I mean, it was obvious that they had to work together and that all the traps are survivable, at least past the first trap, because I didn't really see the key thing coming where the key works for every trap. But besides that, and then the ending twist with Strom and Hoffman's decent. It's pretty good. I'd say it's good. Not the best, but it's good. You know, it worked out very conveniently, and it's kind of not realistic at all, but it's pretty cool. You know, you don't see that coming the first time you watch it, really. And yeah, there's not much else to say about Saw 5. I'd say. It gets kind of carried by Strom and Hoffman, for sure. Alright, I'm just trying to think if I'm just... Did I forget anything about Saw 5? Can't remember anything, so let's move on. Next up on the list. Now, this is where we get to the really good Saw movies, in my opinion. The rest of these are really good Saw movies. You got Saw 2, you got Saw 10, you got Saw 3, you got Saw 6. I think Saw 3 is next. I think Saw 3 is next. Is Saw 3 next? I think it is. Yeah, definitely Saw 3 here. Saw 3 is like the longest one, so it can feel the most sluggish at points. And I know a lot of people just think this movie's boring and they really don't like this movie very much. But I'm a fan of Saw 3, boys. I am a fan of Saw 3. Jeff himself and his personality is not the greatest. It's actually kind of bad. However, his reasoning for being in the trap is some of the best. You know, him having to prove that he can forgive the people that are responsible for his son's death and the killer not being locked away properly is amazing. I love the flashback scenes of him in his room and, like, how he gets so pissed off at his daughter for, like, taking the stuffed animal out of the kid's room. That shit hits, man. That shit hits. That shit is top tier Saw movie bullshit while I scratch my back. Some of the traps are pretty cool. The rack's one of obviously the best traps ever. Carrie's trap's cool. Troy's trap's cool, even though they're rigged. And then the ending parts and the parts with Lynn. I like Lynn's character. You know, you have Lynn, John, and Amanda's shit. Most of that's pretty good. I do think some of that's kind of boring. I'm not really the biggest fan of Amanda until Saw 10, so it's not like peak Saw shit for me like it is for some people. Like the people that really like Saw 3 think the John Kramer, Lynn, and Amanda shit is peak. I'm just more like, I think I'm with more of everybody else, with most people, where it's not peak, but it is really good still, right? Sorry, I just noticed that my fucking computer lights are not on, the RGB's not working. Anyways, got distracted for a second. What else is there to say about this movie? Oh yeah, the twist. I did not see the twist coming, but even when the twist was explained to me, I didn't fully understand it the first time I watched the movie. But once you can fully appreciate the twist, I fucking love the twist. How it turned out it was Amanda's test all along. That's awesome. That is awesome. But the way that this connects with Saw 4, kind of, I don't think it connects with Saw 4 the best, and that kind of hurts Saw 3 a little bit too. Anything else to think about with this movie? Not really. I mean, it's slow-ass motherfucking Jeff. What else more is there to say? It's kind of hard to put this in the S tier. Moving on. I'm going Saw 6. Saw 6. Another one of those movies where some people think this is like the best one or the second best one. I'm not quite there, but again, one of the best reasonings for someone to be in a trap, and the traps are like thematic with the dude's reasoning for being there in the first place so perfectly well, and I think that's what like makes this one of the best movies. I think it really is just that. People love when the traps are thematic with the reasoning for the person being there, and for the reasoning for the person being there to be a good reason. That's why people don't like Saw 4. You know, and a lot of the Saw movies are a lot of people that don't deserve it die. Whereas in this movie, there are a few people who really don't deserve it. Mostly the janitor, but you know, you have a lot of people that do deserve it, like the sharks, I guess, and the main dude whose name I'm forgetting. But no, the carousel trap's goated. The carousel trap is another reason why this movie's so high up on the list. Only 2/3 of the people can get off. It goes with his health insurance policy. It's goated. The ending twist is goated, obviously, where it turns out it wasn't actually his family, but it was the family of the dude who he made die earlier on in the movie, and so they get to inject acid into him. That's perfect. I love the flashbacks between him and John in this movie. Hoffman's part in this movie is pretty damn good as well. This is the one where Hoffman at the end, he escapes in a rigged trap. He escapes the bear trap. That's sick as fuck. This movie just has too many like really good fucking moments to like not be at least an A-tier movie. Okay, we've got 3 movies left. Next for me is Saw 2, and I need to decide, Saw 2 top of A tier or Saw 2 an S tier? Just to appease the masses, I'm putting Saw 2 in S tier. So yes, S tier will have the most movies, but that's how big of a fan of the Saw franchise I am. Fucking love Saw. So yeah, no, Saw 2 is another one of those movies where there's a lot of people, but even more so than Saw 6 and Saw 3, a lot of people think this is the best one. I think it's the 3rd best one. And I think it's mostly because the nerve gas house is highly overrated in my opinion. The nerve gas house and a lot of the traps in the nerve house gas are not actually top tier, you know. I do love the characters in the nerve gas house. I mean, they make Saw 5 look like a bunch of kindergartners. It's just the far superior version of Saw 5, right? You know, Xavier's cool. I don't remember all their names, but they're all cool. Obviously, the furnace trap's awesome. The needle pit trap is awesome. And then every other trap is mid. Every other trap is mid. Every other trap is overrated. It's more character moments. I think people like how it turns out, how Xavier turns evil and he tries to get the code off of everybody's neck. And Amanda has to help Eric Matthews' son survive. Because the ending twist where it turns out that she's an apprentice and his son was in a safe place the whole time, and the feed wasn't live. I think it really is that carries the movie. It's that, and plus, you get like the most John Kramer in this movie. People love John Kramer. Eric Matthews is one of the better detective characters. Boom, they're like half the movie, and then the twist is one of the best twists in the Saw franchise. I think that is enough for some people. I mean, that's enough for pretty much everyone to put it like one of the best. I think that's enough for some people to put it as the best. But for me, it's not, because I think the nerve gas house weighs it down a little bit. I much prefer bathroom in Saw 1, and I much prefer the room they're in Saw 10. So yeah, and I mean, you also get a lot of John Kramer in Saw 10 as well. And guess what? Saw 10 is my 2nd favorite fucking Saw movie, boys. Saw 10 was amazing. I'm so happy Saw 10 was a good movie, because if Saw 10 wasn't a good movie, Saw franchise could have been fucked. Could have been fucked right in its ass. But Saw 10, oh, thank you so much for reviving the franchise. Saw 10, I love you. I mean, it freaking humanizes John Kramer perfectly. It makes John Kramer the protagonist, and you actually root for him, because the people that are in the traps in this movie are the ones that deserve it more than any of the other movies. Even though it's pretty easy to tell where it's going, I do love the beginning of the movie where it's setting it up to where it's all fake. He's not really getting surgery and it's a scam, and these are the evil people that are going to be tested in this movie. That's pretty easily guessable. I mean, I kind of thought they were going to be like, they're going to be organ sellers, and he was going to wake up with like maybe they were selling his other organs or something. That's kind of what I thought was going to happen for a while there, but once you get like right before it reveals it, it's like so supremely obvious what happened, but it still works. It's awesome. The main bad bitch, what's her name? Amelia, Sylvia, whatever that blonde bitch's name is. Amazing character. I really want her to be in the rest of the Saw movies. She was awesome as a villain. And then this obviously has some of the goriest and best traps. I do like eyeball sucking trap. I do like cut your leg off trap. I do like brain surgery trap. The ending twist is doesn't really touch Saw 2 or normal Saw, or maybe even Saw 3. But the ending twist is still good. You know? How like they basically had like plan B and they knew that there's a chance that I forget his name, the dude that's like her boyfriend would like betray them. So then the room was rigged to be a gas trap as well. That part's awesome. And they knew it all along because the guy at the beginning with the arm bombs told them about him. I just think the ending works. No holla, no holla. I mean, this movie's fucking goated. Like S tier is just straight up like excellent movies in fucking general. Like top tier movies of all time. Just if you include all movies, especially when you talk about Saw 1, which is the best Saw movie. Saw 1 might have more bias in it for it than the other movies, and more nostalgia for it than the other movies. But at the same time, I watched all these movies for the first time not super long ago. Like, I did not watch these movies as they were coming out, except Saw 10. I just think the ending to Saw is like a top 50 twist of all time. Like, literally include every movie that's ever been created in the history of all time. And Saw 10's is like literally, Saw 10's twist is literally high up there. It's literally high up there. And I'm someone who's less critical, and I'm able to forgive this movie for the bad acting and the low budget. And like I'm able to like realize that this is the first movie in the franchise, so I'm just more forgiving for this movie. And I know other people aren't. The people that aren't, they're 100% not going to put this number one, because this is like objectively nowhere near even the best made movie on this list if we're talking about just like how well it's made. But I love the detectiving. The detective aspect of Saw is my favorite aspect of Saw, and this has the best detective aspect in my opinion. I love the mystery. This one's obviously the most mysterious because you don't even know who the Jigsaw killer is yet. And for me, that works wonders for this movie. That's gonna keep this movie number one basically forever. Just because this movie's unique to the other movies, you know, it's more about the mystery. It's the least about the traps. Even though the traps are still good in this movie, it just barely shows them and there's not as many. But yeah, because of the way in which Saw's unique and it has that top twist of all time. This has the best twist in the whole franchise by far. It'll just always be number one for me. Anyways, guys, I'm going to end the video here. Comments below. Give me your own list. Thanks for watching. I love you all. Cheekarooty doody, baby.